Where was God before the universe was created? A classic question that has long echoed through the halls of intellectual history shakes the foundations of human reason. Where was God before creating the universe? This question doesn't merely spark curiosity, it pierces the core of our understanding of time, space, and existence itself. The answer isn't just a matter of theology, it's a challenge for philosophy, physics, and the very essence of human consciousness. But before we attempt to answer, we must first recognize this. Such a question cannot be answered within our usual framework of thought. We must momentarily let go of how we normally understand space and time. Why? Because this question demands that we think before the concept of before even existed. Space and time, products of creation itself. According to modern cosmology and the Big Bang Theory, the universe began from a singularity, from which both space and time expanded. In other words, before the universe existed, time itself did not exist. This isn't wordplay. It's a serious theoretical reality. Time isn't a free-floating entity. It is part of a space-time system that came into being with the universe. So, asking, where was God before the universe, is like asking, what's south of the South Pole? There is no south of the southernmost point on Earth, just as there is no time before time was created. And here lies the philosophical tension. If God is not in a place, because place didn't yet exist, then God's existence must be beyond space and time. In metaphysical terms, transcendent. And this brings us face to face with the very definition of divinity itself. God, transcendent or immanent? In many theological traditions, God is understood as transcendent, beyond anything that could be confined by time and space. God is not trapped within the universe, but neither is he absent from it. This gives rise to the debate between transcendence and immanence. If God is truly transcendent, then he need not be everywhere in the spatial sense. His existence cannot be mapped, because he is the source of the map itself. God does not exist within space. Space exists because God created it. In this view, before creation, God was nowhere, because where did not exist. But if we lean toward the idea of immanence, that God is present within creation, we encounter a deeper question. Does God need space to exist, or does space need God in order to exist? Philosophers like Boethius and Thomas Aquinas believe that God exists in a state of eternitas, eternity not bound by time, where all things are seen simultaneously. God doesn't experience past, present, and future like we do. Everything is present to him in a single timeless moment. So before the universe, God wasn't in a specific moment, because all time is his creation. A more controversial view, God is non-local. Let us now enter more speculative, even controversial territory. Some modern spiritual and quantum physics approaches suggest that God could be understood as non-local, a term borrowed from quantum mechanics. A non-local entity is not bound by space or time. Just as quantum particles can be connected across vast distances, God too may not be limited by location or moment. Of course, this idea unsettles many traditional theological frameworks. If God is non-local, does that mean he is also placeless, even after the universe was created? And if so, how can we claim that God is present in a church, in nature, or even in the human heart? This raises something radical. Maybe we've misunderstood existence itself. Maybe God is not a thing that exists in a place, but rather the condition of being that makes all existence possible. Not an entity within reality, but the very reality that enables entities to be. When ignorance is the highest form of knowing. In negative theology, there's a central principle. The more we try to define God, the further we drift from him. God isn't an object we can understand using normal reason, let alone confine within categories of space and time. So perhaps the best answer to where was God before the universe is, the question itself is flawed. But acknowledging the flaw isn't weakness, it's intellectual strength. In a world where everyone races to be an expert, intellectual humility is the highest form of wisdom. But what's the point of all this? Some might ask. What's the use of thinking about this? Does it matter where God was before anything existed? It's a valid question. But questions like this are precisely what make us human. We don't just eat, sleep, and reproduce. We wonder. We reflect on origins and ultimate ends. We search for meaning. And from questions that seem unanswerable often emerges our deepest awareness of our limits and of the grandeur of reality. In these moments, we discover not just knowledge, but perhaps for the first time, wisdom. Conclusion: God, before and beyond all things. So, where was God before the universe was created? If we dare to think beyond ordinary logic, the answer might be: God exists in a state beyond limits, beyond location, beyond time. Maybe God is being itself, the ground of all that is. This question, simple on the surface, opens a gateway to deeper understanding of who we are, where we come from, and where we are going. God, in his unfathomable nature, may not be something we find out there. Perhaps in the deepest silence of an honest and thinking heart we'll realize what we've been searching for isn't outside, but in the very depth of being itself. And perhaps in that silence God waits, not because he is absent, but because we are not yet quiet enough to hear him.